Welcome to our video on the table of interests in negotiations. The table of interests is a valuable tool that helps to establish a basis for negotiations by assisting parties to clearly define and communicate their interests and priorities. In this video, we will show you what the table of interests is about and how it is used in practice. The table of interests is a tool often used in negotiations and conflict resolution to create a clear and comprehensive representation of the parties' different positions, priorities and needs. Typically, interests and priorities are recorded in a tabular form for easy comparison and evaluation. By disclosing and prioritizing their interests, the parties can work together to find solutions that consider everyone's interests. The table of interests can also help identify and avoid potential conflicts early by enabling the parties to clearly present their positions and develop an understanding of each other. It is important in negotiations to seek common ground because it facilitates the negotiation process and increases the likelihood that an agreement will be reached. In addition, when the parties involved have common ground, they can communicate more effectively and understand their arguments and demands. Common ground helps avoid confusion and misunderstanding by ensuring all parties know the same starting point. All participants can thus react more quickly and effectively to problems and find solutions together. Furthermore, the space for discussion and disagreement is reduced. Thus, everyone can focus more quickly on the most important issues and progress faster. The whole negotiation process is facilitated. Everyone has interests. These should always be at the forefront of negotiations, as this can help to reach a successful and satisfactory agreement. However, often in negotiations, parties focus exclusively on their positions and demands rather than really concentrating on the interests behind them. This can lead to neither party being happy, and the negotiations fail. Let's look closer at the terms positions, demands, interests and priorities in the context of negotiations, as they have different meanings and can easily be confused. A position is an explicit statement that someone makes concerning a topic or issue. It is what someone wants or does not want. Positions are often rigid and non-negotiable because they are based on firm beliefs or principles. A demand is a concrete and specific request someone makes in a negotiation. Demands are usually negotiable, and the terms can be discussed to reach an agreement. Interests are the underlying motivations and needs that someone has. Interests are often broader and more general than positions or demands. They can encompass many aspects, such as financial, emotional or strategic considerations. The parties should know and understand their priorities in order to focus on their interests and direct the negotiations towards the aspects that are really important. Mutual respect for priorities and interests paves the way for reaching a successful agreement. Focusing on interests is a good step towards a successful negotiation. By communicating and understanding their interests and priorities, the parties can find common goals and create a win-win situation. Suppose you are an employee and ask the employer for a salary increase. Here is a possible interest table you could create. In this example, your interests are on the left, while your employer's interests are on the right. A plus sign means that the party concerned has an interest in the matter. In contrast, a minus sign indicates that the party has no interest. Using this table of interests, you can identify possible solutions that consider both your interests and the interests of your employer. For example, you could propose that you receive a salary increase while agreeing to take on certain additional tasks to accommodate your employer's interests. Such a solution will satisfy both parties and create a win-win situation. Finding out the other party's interests is an indispensable step in conducting a successful negotiation and reaching an agreement. Here are some tips on how to find out the other party's interests. One way to determine the other party's interests is to ask pointed questions. Ask about the reasons for their position or demands to determine what is really important to them. Ask questions like, "I would like to understand why you think this is so important. Would you please explain it to me? Would you please explain to me the reasons why you have taken this position? Why is the subject of no interest?" Listen carefully to the other party's words and try to interpret their words and body language. Look for keywords and signals that reveal their interests and needs. Phrases you can use here are, "If I understand it correctly, the quality of the product is the highest priority for you, right? I can hear that you are leaning towards the first suggestion A for you. Why is that, if I may ask?" Put yourself in the other party's perspective and consider what might be important for them. What factors might influence their position? For example, suppose you were sitting on the other side of the table. What would you like to see? What would be most important to you? Observe the behavior of the other party to get clues about their interests. Pay attention to how they react and how they present their position. Where do they emphasize certain things, and where are topics repeated that would be of interest? Look for the signals in the conversation. Find out about the other party and use your contacts to learn more about their background and interests. What makes such people tick, according to experience? What are the basic needs? Quality, price, where are they open if given, and where would they be sensitive? Always be patient and attentive, read between the lines, and engage your negotiating partners in a conversation, small talk. This way, you can learn more about the interests and priorities. If you still do not succeed in obtaining secure information, then make assumptions. Listen to your gut feeling and use your experience. Intuitive action is often underestimated, but it also often leads to good results. Negotiations are often about defending and asserting one's own positions. But what if, instead, we focus on the interests behind our positions and look for beneficial solutions for both parties? This is where interest tables come into play. By creating an interest list for both sides, we can focus on shared interests and discover new opportunities for a win-win solution. Creating a list of interests requires courage and openness. We must be willing to put ourselves in the other party's perspective and understand what is really important to them. But if we do that, we can find a solution that benefits all parties and leads to a long-term, successful relationship. So, let's be brave and focus on the interests behind our positions. Because at the end of the day, negotiations are not only about winning or losing but also about building and maintaining relationships that are valuable for all parties.